is one of the most outrageous things I have heard in a long, long time.
In a case that has been filled with outrageous.
The cameras clicked, the whispers rose, and there she was, Wendy Williams, gaunt but unflinching, walking into the courtroom like she owned every inch of scorched earth beneath her. A decade ago, she ruled daytime TV in 6-inch stilettos and a wig that screamed, "I know too much." Now, no network, no freedom. A guardianship wrapped around her like barbed wire. But that was then. Today, Wendy has nothing left to lose, and that's exactly what makes her the most dangerous woman in the room. She wasn't here to play defense. She was here to burn bridges that never deserved to stand. And the first target in her crosshairs? Sean Diddy Combs. The same Diddy currently holed up in federal custody, sweating through therapy sessions and trying to scrub his rap sheet with rehab pamphlets and anger management workshops. The same man who once allegedly had her booted from Hot 97 like yesterday's mail because she dared to suggest that not all of his after-hours activity was, shall we say, heteronormative. And now, with prosecutors circling and sentencing day marked on the calendar like a grim holiday, Diddy is finding himself haunted by ghosts he thought he'd long since buried. Wendy? She's the one swinging the shovel. We remember the whispers. Long before CNN dropped grainy hallway footage or before court dockets screamed racketeering, Wendy was the one saying something didn't smell right in the house of Bad Boy. She said it on air, off air, and in between. Back then, it cost her everything. Her mic, her platform, her peace. And Diddy? He kept his empire afloat, papered over the rumors, and made sure Wendy's name became a cautionary tale. But what if she was right all along? What if Wendy wasn't just a gossip monger with a grudge, but the only one brave enough to speak out when the rest of the industry was too busy cashing checks?
Cars. Yeah. Is he this gangster that behind the scenes that is that him? Or is that
Shout out to Wendy Williams.
According to insiders, Wendy never really let it go. There were always murmurs of her secret files, a private stash of receipts, photos, recordings, names. Some even claimed she once referred to it as her retirement plan. A former assistant once told a podcaster that Wendy had a safe in her old Jersey mansion labeled only Black Book. And now, after years of silence, that same Wendy has landed in a courtroom reportedly ready to testify. Is it finally time to crack that vault open? What's truly wild is how prophetic Wendy's old rants sound now. Back in the late 90s, she said a certain hip-hop mogul was running more than just record deals. She hinted at manipulation, obsession, and control so tight you could choke on it. She even described being ambushed outside her studio by one of Diddy's then girl groups, total allegedly, sent to rough her up. We rolled our eyes. She sounded bitter. But here we are, decades later, and the charges stacking against Diddy are starting to read like Wendy's old show notes. Private flights for questionable company, recorded sessions, forced performances. Sound familiar?
Same kind of extortion that we heard when Cassie took the stand and testified on that airplane ride back from France. Diddy said, "You don't do a freak off, I'm going to release one of the freak off videos that you are profiled in and humiliate you."
Diddy's team argues these were nothing more than poor choices, indulgent fantasies, lapses in judgment, but a jury disagreed on at least 2 counts, convicting him for transporting people across state lines for paid encounters. And while the human trafficking and racketeering charges didn't stick, the trial made one thing brutally clear: something sinister was happening behind the velvet rope. Cassie Ventura's tear-streaked testimony alone unraveled years of PR polish. The footage of her being kicked and dragged in a hallway, that wasn't from a film set. That was real. And Wendy's reaction to it? "It's about time," she said, with the kind of dry delivery that hits harder than a gavel. But let's not pretend Wendy's reappearance is all about revenge. No, this runs deeper. In the years since she left her show, Wendy has been buried alive by the very system she once mocked. Diagnosed with dementia she claims not to have, trapped in a guardianship she didn't request, a woman once worth over $55 million now told she's broke and escorted by police after flinging a desperate note from her 5th-story window. And guess who some believe helped grease the wheels on that downfall?
Looks at Wendy and says, "You know, you had a great career. Your career is over. It is never coming back. You're done." Why would a judge?
There's quiet speculation, and it's growing louder, that Wendy's implosion wasn't entirely organic. Multiple court filings have raised eyebrows about her guardian, Sabrina Morrissey's conduct. Financial records? Blocked. Phone calls? Cut off. And at least one court submission from Wendy's ex-husband, Kevin Hunter, accused Morrissey of racketeering-level misconduct. Now connect the dots. Diddy's name floats around another RICO case, filed by a former producer, and Wendy's legal guardian is accused of siphoning millions from Wendy's locked accounts. Coincidence? Maybe. But if someone wanted to silence the woman with all the receipts, you could do worse than taking her money, declaring her incompetent, and tucking her away behind assisted living walls. Just ask Britney Spears how that works. The bigger question, though, is why now? Why is Wendy choosing this exact moment to reemerge, to speak, to stand toe-to-toe with one of the most litigated men in music? Some sources close to her team suggest she's aiming to end her guardianship by proving she's mentally sound. And taking down Diddy in court might just prove she's still sharper than the industry ever gave her credit for. After all, what better way to show the world you haven't lost your grip than by blowing up a decades-old cover-up with a single unsealed file?
In a court proceeding that has nothing to do with Wendy's career. Moreover, that were made in front of Wendy Williams. If true, that is outrageous because this judge, one, she's not in the entertainment industry, so I don't know where she would get off opining about that and why that's even relevant to her role as a judge, who's basically a judge of the law, and in this case, judge.
And here's where it gets even murkier. There are growing suspicions that Wendy's current situation, her diagnosis, her confinement, her supposed memory loss, has been exaggerated or even fabricated. She claims she passed her competency tests with flying colors. Her caretaker went on record saying she's not incapacitated, and yet she can't access her own bank accounts, walk outside unescorted, or hire her own legal team. Why? Maybe it's because what Wendy knows isn't just tabloid fodder, it's courtroom-grade ammo. She didn't just hint at Diddy's secrets, she lived inside them. Her sources weren't Reddit threads or TMZ headlines, they were artists, assistants, label reps, drivers, women. And she remembers their names. If what Wendy has hinted at turns out to be real, if those secret files do exist, then Diddy's current conviction might only be the tip of a very dirty iceberg. Because what we're looking at is not just one man's legal spiral, but the potential unraveling of a power structure that's protected him for decades. If Wendy can prove that the industry helped cover for him, if she can show that certain people were paid off, silenced, disappeared, then the dominoes might start falling faster than Diddy's legal team can file appeals.
We once worked together a long time ago. They're not friends now. They don't like each other. And yeah, 50 has taken every shot, especially when Diddy has been down.
And make no mistake, Diddy is scrambling. His lawyers are pulling every trick in the book. Therapy programs, addiction workshops, sob stories about mental health to reduce his upcoming sentence. He's already dodged the biggest charges, and yet the fear in his camp is palpable. Because no matter how slick the spin, nothing cuts through courtroom drama like raw testimony, and Wendy's got decades of it. The world laughed at Wendy for years. We called her a loudmouth, a mess, a liability. But what if she was a warning, a siren we ignored? And now that her chains are loosening, now that she's found her way back to a microphone, metaphorically or otherwise, what else is she about to say? If Wendy Williams was right about Diddy all along, what else has she been right about?
Go back to that 50 Cent post, because I'm gonna tell you why 50 is literally is a diabolical genius.
And while Wendy's return to the spotlight is already shaking the walls of a courtroom, it's the tremors hitting Diddy's carefully constructed public image that are beginning to collapse the mansion from the inside. The man who once branded himself as a mogul, a media darling, a bad boy turned family man, is now resorting to what prosecutors are calling calculated moves inside his jail cell. He's joined the STOP program. He's suddenly invested in therapy. He's enrolled in substance counseling. And according to a former federal prosecutor, it all reeks of strategy. It's lawyering 101, he said bluntly. But no amount of mindfulness journals and apology tours can whitewash what's already been seen, heard, and testified under oath. Because the reality is the court of public opinion doesn't care about your guided meditations when footage of you dragging your ex across a hotel hallway plays on loop. It doesn't forget when Cassie Ventura stood before a jury, visibly shaken, to describe years of being physically and emotionally tormented. It doesn't forget the second woman, anonymous, scared, kicked, and then coerced into what prosecutors called a freak-off within the same 24 hours. And now Wendy's testimony could be the thread that ties them all together. She's not just piling on, she's adding years of behind-the-scenes context to a narrative the courts are still trying to untangle.
Was fitting to happen.
Within 24
He could have paid that
hours.
$30 million before.
Yeah, why? Let that hit the fan. Did he?
Because he's Diddy.
He called a bluff?
Think about the power of that. Wendy Williams, once discredited, dismissed, and dragged through every tabloid as unstable, could now be the one whose voice actually bolsters the credibility of others. If the judge listens, if the jury weighs it, if the media decides to connect her history with Diddy's patterns, then suddenly this isn't a redemption arc for Diddy. It's an unmasking. And it's one the industry might not be ready for. Because Diddy's case doesn't exist in a vacuum. For years, the entertainment elite propped him up while allegations simmered just beneath the surface. Artists stayed silent, executives looked away. Tabloids hinted but never investigated. And all the while, Wendy was out there dropping breadcrumbs, mocked by many but listened to by just enough to be dangerous. So we have to ask, why did it take so long? How did someone allegedly orchestrating decade-long abuse, manipulation, and threats manage to stay untouchable?
How many people came through his orbit? How many people could this have happened to? And how did he get away with it for so long?
The answer, in part, might lie in the structure itself. Hollywood has always had a talent for protecting its own, especially the ones generating headlines, revenue, and cultural influence. When the lawsuits first started to trickle in, there was an eerie sense of déjà vu. Victims getting discredited, cases getting thrown out or settled quietly. Even when a former producer accused Diddy of running a criminal enterprise, complete with laced drinks, blackmail tapes, and harassment so brazen it included allegedly threatening an 8-year-old, few seemed to bat an eye. And while some called the lawsuit outrageous, others called it eerily plausible. And in the middle of that chaos, we find Wendy, a woman who once had $55 million in her accounts, who now can't even control her own phone, who claims to have passed competency tests only to be locked on the 5th floor of a memory ward, and who, despite it all, is still trying to speak. The same Wendy who warned us about Diddy's grip over the radio world, who said she was pushed out of Hot 97 because she wouldn't play ball, who once called out his playboy lifestyle and controlling ways years before courtrooms had to hear about baby oil and surveillance tapes. If she's lying now, it would be a masterclass in commitment. But if she's telling the truth, then we're looking at something bigger than Diddy. We're looking at the rot under the entire red carpet.
And by the way, the judge doesn't know what she's talking about. I mean,
by the way, there are a lot of people clamoring for Wendy to actually get back on the air and to have a show again.
When did this judge become Roger Ebert? I mean, I'm serious. Wendy Williams is a hot commodity right now. I can tell you from our Tubi documentary, it attracted a lot of attention. She's done interviews with major outlets.
And let's not ignore the sudden silence from certain corners of the industry, the ones who posed with him at the Met Gala, shouted him out at award shows, or shared stage time on tour. Where are those voices now? Are they too scared to speak, or do they simply know better than to bite the hand that writes the checks? Because if Wendy's reemergence proves anything, it's that the game has always been rigged, and the players have always known the rules, but maybe that's what makes Wendy so dangerous. She never played the long game. She wasn't interested in cozying up to the machine. She talked, she spilled, she exposed, and they buried her for it. First came the ridicule, then the guardianship, then the locked phone lines, the lost access, and the eerie financial black hole where millions used to be. Her own best friend testified that Wendy had documents from Wells Fargo showing nearly $55 million in her name, and days later was told by her court-appointed guardian that she had no money left. That same guardian, by the way, was accused in court of being involved in racketeering related to another case. You can't make this stuff up.
I'm sorry, I'm just really, I'm in this moment right now. This is crazy. Sorry. People don't really know how much what it does to you when something that you love is taken from you and thrown away like it don't even matter, and then they move on with their lives and you're stuck. You're stuck. During those years, you're still stuck 21 years later.
And yet, Wendy's still here, still talking, still waving notes out of her window, still calling into news segments, still begging the world to listen. She says it plainly. I'm not allowed outside. I'm on a memory floor. But somehow she remembers everything. The songs, the headlines, the faces, the secrets. For years, Wendy's most public stumbles, slurred words on camera, fainting live on air, erratic interviews, and outbursts that became viral fodder, were mocked as the unraveling of a once sharp media icon. But in hindsight, we have to ask whether those moments were symptoms not of instability, but of a person unraveling under the weight of relentless sabotage. The timing of her so-called decline aligns all too neatly with the years she was allegedly being pressured, isolated, and legally muted by forces larger than her. Her guardianship didn't arrive in a vacuum. It followed decades of tension with powerful industry players, many of whom had every reason to want Wendy silenced once and for all.
And then what's the stuff that's happening with Wendy Williams? You think this is all connection to?
Of course.
It's easy to forget that Wendy wasn't just a gossip queen. She was a disruptor in an industry that thrives on compliance. the emotional toll of that role is rarely acknowledged. When you spend your career pulling masks off stars, protected by million-dollar machines, you don't just earn enemies, you become a target. Insiders have quietly suggested that the erratic behavior the media pounced on might have been engineered through calculated isolation, withdrawal of resources, or even medical manipulation. If true, then the guardianship isn't just a legal status, it's a gag order dressed up as caretaking, and her documented cries for help, like the note she dropped from her window, read less like confusion and more like desperation. And yet the public was fed a different story, one where Wendy's fading star was her own fault. Her struggles were packaged as entertainment, her pain turned into memes. If you asked what led her to that point, fewer still considered that her downward spiral might have been induced, not inevitable. But if Wendy was indeed broken by design, then her recent defiance becomes even more powerful. It's not just a comeback, it's an act of rebellion. She's trying to take back a voice they spent years trying to erase. And if she's successful, it could force us all to reevaluate how we treat the loud women who refuse to back down.
The judge in the guardianship.
The judge in the guardianship read Alex Finney the riot act, threatened her and said, you're talking, making an accusation that she's talking to the media, and if you continue doing it, I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to do that to you. There is a gag order in this case. I can tell you that the judge has scared a lot of people in this.
If Diddy's sentencing on October 3rd becomes a media circus we're expecting, Wendy's name may surface more than once. And if she's subpoenaed or voluntarily testifies, it might be the final twist in a story decades in the making. The industry once branded her a liability. But what if she's the only one telling the truth? And here's the kicker, if Wendy's claims are validated, it doesn't just end with Diddy. It opens the door for every old whisper to crawl back into the light, every suppressed story, every cover-up, every whispered warning scrawled in a tabloid margin. Because if she was right about this, what else was she right about? Who else was protected? Who else is hiding in plain sight? Though here's where we leave you. A media titan shackled in a facility, screaming to be heard. A music mogul clinging to image rehab inside a jail cell. And an entire industry now nervously wondering, what if the woman they silenced turns out to be the whistleblower they can't ignore? But what do you think? Is Wendy Williams finally getting the justice she was denied? Or is this just another twist in a story too messy to ever fully untangle? Could this be the end for Diddy, or just the beginning of Hollywood's biggest reckoning yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and as always, stay bold, stay curious, and never stop asking the uncomfortable questions. Until next time, Gossip Fam, stay tuned.